Aloha, everyone. Katie Copeskey here again, Senior VP of Programming, coming to you with our first resilience tool and concept to help bolster that resilience muscle that we talked about in the first video. So when we think again about the definition of resilience, the ability to prepare for, recover from, and adapt to stressors or adversities in our lives, what's at the heart of this definition is the art of self-regulation, the ability to be in tune and manage our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So in order to get after that goal, we need to start with self-awareness. So I want to talk through a cognitive model called the ABC model in order to help us gain that self-awareness. So I love that we're starting with this foundation. I mean, when we think about something that's fundamental in our day-to-day lives, something that we learn early on as kids is our ABC, the alphabet. But in this case, we're talking about it from a cognitive tool technique. So Albert Ellis is a revered and renowned cognitive psychologist who has created this model for us to be more in tune with ourselves. And let's just press the pause button for a second and just think about the benefit of self-awareness. So when we know ourselves, when we know our strengths and weaknesses, when we're able to be willing to take a look in that mirror and identify things that we're really great at and things that we really need to improve, that's really the starting point of self-awareness. So this tool really helps us to dive into that from a mental standpoint. So let's talk through this ABC model. So the A stands for activating event. B stands for belief. And C stands for consequences. And there's two parts to consequences. So the activating event is a stimulus. It's something that happens in our environment, or maybe something that's happening to us internally that we've become aware of. When we think about an activating event, it's pretty typical for us to also think about that as an adversity. But really, I want us just to be thinking about this as the stuff of life, things that are happening in our day-to-day that we're having to respond to or deal with. So when I think about my day-to-day life right now, a lot of things revolve around receiving phone calls from my parents or from coworkers or from people that I'm working with, computer issues that I'm having to troubleshoot, maybe going out for dinner if that's an availability to me. So these are the things that are just happening in our day-to-day lives. And for every single person that's watching this video, their day-to-day lives, their activating events are going to look a little bit different. So for some of you, it might be things like receiving a phone call at 4 a.m. to respond to a 911 call. It might be waking up because of that kid who is screaming because they're missing their parent. There are things that trigger us on a daily basis. Those are all called activating events. Beliefs are our thoughts, our interpretations of the activating event. So some of you might have heard of this concept of self-talk, this idea that we've got things happening up in our brain space. Synapses are firing and we have a thought. What I'm most interested in when it comes to our thoughts are things that happen in the heat of the moment. Once the activating event has occurred, what's immediately coming into your brain? The next section is consequences. So this has two pieces to it. So one, emotions or feelings. Reactions, behaviors, things that we do could also be something that we feel internally. Maybe our heart rate quickens, maybe our palms become sweaty. So let's just think about the whole model together. So an activating event might be something like getting cut off by another driver on your way to work. Your thought might be, wow, that guy's a bastard. Your emotion would probably be something like anger, and your reaction might be to honk your horn. We can take the same activating event and look at it in a different way by changing our beliefs, by changing our thoughts. So one of my old coworkers had such grace and compassion towards those that are cutting them off. And his thought was, they must be going somewhere and needing to get there fast. So he would imagine that they were on their way to an interview or on their way to see their spouse give birth. Such a kind man. So the activating event is still the same. So I'm getting cut off on my way to work. And the thought now becomes, wow, they're really in a hurry. They must be going somewhere important. His emotion is eagerness. He wants to help. So reaction is to wave that person in and allow them to get ahead. So some of us might be thinking, wow, that takes a lot of effort. That takes a huge amount of mind shift in order to think differently. Absolutely. This takes practice. And over time, this does become easier. So that's just a quick review of the ABCs, one of our foundational tools and techniques for us to be able to check in on our thinking and think to ourselves, how is this going? Is what I'm thinking in this moment helping? Is it harming? Do I need to shift this up to have a different perspective? So I'm curious to hear your feedback on this tool, how this is helping you, and leave a comment below about how that's going for you.